At the airport, she said, "Don't walk with me. You'll embarrass me in front of my friends." I nodded and let her go ahead. But when she came back weeks later, her ride home wasn't me. My girlfriend Rosie and I operate on different frequencies. My world is tangible and real. Hers is filtered and exists for an audience on a screen. For the first year and a half, this was a charming difference. But 6 months ago, she quit her stable marketing job to become a full-time influencer. We made a deal. I'd cover the major bills for a 6-month trial period to give her a runway to build her brand. She would use her savings for her business expenses. It was a short-term, calculated risk. I was investing in her, not signing a blank check for life. Almost immediately, her business expenses started looking a lot like shopping sprees, and my patience was wearing thin. The whole arrangement felt less like a partnership and more like I was the silent producer of her one-woman show. The cracks were showing, little comments about how my life wasn't very aspirational, the way she'd talk to me like an assistant. This 3W Weekek content creation trip to Europe was supposed to be her last big push before the 6 months were up, and she had to start contributing again. The airport incident wasn't the first red flag, but it was absolutely the last. I drove her to the airport and helped her with her 3 oversized, ridiculously heavy suitcases. As we approached the check-in counter, she saw her friends, Lauren and Ashley. They were dressed like they were about to walk a runway, not sit on a 10-hour flight. They looked over at me in my comfortable jeans and hoodie, and I saw them exchange a look of faint disgust. Rosie stopped dead in her tracks. She turned to me, not with a loving goodbye, but with a look of sheer panic. "Okay, you can stop here," she said, her voice a harsh whisper. I was confused. "What do you mean? I'll walk you to security." She let out an exasperated sigh as if I had just suggested we churn our own butter in the middle of the terminal. She glanced over at her friends who were pretending not to watch, and then looked back at me. "Don't walk with me," she said, her voice low and sharp. "You'll embarrass me in front of my friends." And there it was, the final confirmation. I wasn't a person to be loved and missed. I was a potential embarrassment to be managed. A stain on her carefully crafted image. I looked past her and saw Lauren and Ashley smirking. They had heard. In that moment, our entire relationship replayed in my head, but this time with perfect clarity. Every dismissive comment every time, I felt like an accessory instead of a partner. It all clicked into place. The love I felt for her didn't just die. It evaporated. I didn't get angry. I didn't raise my voice. A strange, almost joyful calm settled over me. I looked at her perfectly made-up face, and I just nodded. "You're right," I said, my voice even and polite. "I wouldn't want to do that." I let go of her luggage cart. "Have a great trip," I said. Then I turned around and walked away without looking back. She stood there, stunned into silence. She was expecting a fight, an argument, some drama she could later recount to her friends. She didn't get it. All she got was my back, walking away, getting smaller and smaller. As I walked out of the airport, I pulled out my phone. She was going to be gone for 3 weeks. That was more than enough time. She was about to get the rebranding of a lifetime, and her ride home definitely wasn't going to be me. Update 1. The drive home from the airport was the most productive hour of my life. The petty, emotional part of me wanted to just go home and throw all her stuff on the lawn. But the part of me that values structure and process knew that this needed to be handled with precision. This wasn't a demolition. It was a careful, deliberate disassembly. My first stop was the dealership where I bought the luxury SUV she drove. It was a beautiful car, and she loved being seen in it. It was also a car that was entirely in my name. I walked in, found the sales manager I'd worked with before, and told him I wanted to sell it back. He was a bit surprised, but he knew a good deal when he saw one. By the end of the afternoon, the paperwork was signed. The car was theirs, and a very large check was in my pocket. Step 1 complete. When I got home, the house felt strange. It was filled with her presents. Her clothes were in the closet, her products were all over the bathroom, and her filming studio had taken over the entire spare bedroom. It was a monument to a person who no longer existed in my life. It was time for a renovation. I didn't just want to pack her things, I wanted to erase her. I called a high-end junk, removal, and deep cleaning service. I explained the situation. I told them I wanted every single item that wasn't mine removed from the house. I wanted the closets emptied, the bathroom cleared, and the spare bedroom gutted. I also wanted a deep clean of the entire house from top to bottom. I wanted the place to feel new again. They quoted me a price, and I told them I'd pay double if they could have it all done by the end of the next day. While they worked their magic, I focused on the digital side of our lives. I logged into our shared streaming accounts and changed all the passwords. I went through my bank accounts and credit cards, removing her as an authorized user on everything. I also found the login for the website she used for her influencer business. I didn't delete it. That would be too simple. Instead, I went into the back end and changed the contact email and recovery phone number to my own. I was now the silent and sole administrator of her brand. By the next evening, the house was transformed. It was empty, clean, and quiet. The junk removal service had been ruthlessly efficient. Every trace of her was gone. The spare bedroom, once a chaotic mess of ring lights and fast fashion, was now just an empty room full of potential. But an empty house isn't a home. So I went shopping. I bought a new comfortable couch that you could actually fall asleep on. I brought out the solid oak coffee table I'd built myself a few years ago and had kept in storage because it didn't fit her aesthetic. I bought a new TV, a bigger one, and a proper sound system. I turned the spare bedroom into a home gym and a workshop for my smaller design projects. My life is built on making real solid things, and I was finally reclaiming my space to do just that. Over the next 2 weeks, I systematically rebuilt my life. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in months because Rosie found them boring. I went hiking. I went to baseball games. I did all the things I had stopped doing because they weren't Instagrammable. I received a few texts from her during this time. Short, breezy messages with pictures of her in front of the Eiffel Tower, or eating pasta in Rome. She never asked how I was. She just sent updates on her own glamorous life. I never replied. The final piece of my plan fell into place a few days before she was due to return. I took the check from the car sale and used a portion of it to book a trip for myself. A 2-week motorcycle tour through the national parks out west. A trip I had always wanted to take but had put off because Rosie hated camping. My flight was scheduled to leave on the same day she was scheduled to arrive. The day before her flight home, I sent her a single email. The subject line was important information regarding your return. The email was short and to the point. Rosie, as per your request at the airport, I have ceased to be a part of your life. To that end, I have made the following arrangements. 1. Your belongings have been professionally packed and moved to a secure storage facility. The address is 123 Storage Way, Unit 42. The access code is 1234. The first month is prepaid. 2. The car you are driving has been sold. It was my property. 3. The locks on the house have been changed. You are no longer a resident. I trust this provides you with the freedom you desire. I will be out of the country for the next few weeks and will not be reachable. I wish you the best in your future endeavors, Tom. I hit send, turned off my phone, and finished packing my motorcycle gear. She wanted to be the star of her own show. I'd just given her a brand new stage, a completely empty one. Update 2. I was somewhere in the middle of Zion National Park, enjoying the profound silence of the desert when I finally turned my phone back on. It had been 5 days since I'd left. The digital onslaught was even more spectacular than I had imagined. It was a beautiful symphony of panic and rage. I had hundreds of notifications, missed calls from Rosie, her friends, and her parents, Voicemails that I could see from the transcriptions were just strings of incoherent screaming and emails. So many emails. My best friend Dave had been my man on the ground, and he gave me the play-by-play. Roz's flight had landed, and she had apparently waited at the arrivals curb for over an hour, expecting me to be there. When I didn't show up, she had a full-blown tantrum right there on the sidewalk. She finally had to take a ridiculously expensive cab all the way back to my house. The cab driver, according to Dave, who heard it from a neighbor, had to help her with her 3 massive suitcases. She paid him, and he drove off just as she was trying her key in the lock. The moment of realization, when the key didn't work, was by all accounts a sight to behold. She was stranded on my porch with 300 lb of luggage and no way to get in. She started calling me, of course. Then she called her friends. Lauren and Ashley, who had been so supportive of her glamorous European adventure, were suddenly very busy. Neither of them had a car big enough for her luggage, and they lived in tiny apartments on the other side of town. Her parents had to drive 2 hours to come and get her. Dave said the scene on my front lawn was pure chaos. Her father was yelling, her mother was crying, and Rosie was just sitting on one of her suitcases staring at the front door of the house. She was no longer welcome in. The social media campaign started that night. It was a coordinated attack. Rosie, Lauren, and Ashley all posted long, tearful stories about the dark side of relationships and how I had abandoned Rosie, leaving her homeless and stranded. They were trying to paint me as a monster, but I had already inoculated our mutual friends against their nonsense. Before I left, I had sent a short private message to a few key people. I told them that Rosie and I had broken up and that she had said some things that made it clear we wanted very different lives. I asked them to just reserve judgment until they had all the facts. So when the smear campaign started, it didn't land. People were skeptical. The story of what she had said to me at the airport had already started to leak out. Her narrative of being a blameless victim wasn't holding up. The most glorious part, however, was what I had done with her website. Remember how I had taken administrative control? While I was on my trip, I had made one small change. I replaced her entire portfolio of glamorous filtered photos with a single high-resolution image. It was a picture of the receipt from the junk removal company with the total cost circled in red. Underneath it, I added a single line of text: "Brand undergoing a strategic realignment. Please check back soon for updates." I heard from Dave that one of her few remaining followers saw it and sent her a screenshot. Her entire online persona, her business, had been reduced to a receipt for throwing her stuff away. She had a complete meltdown and took the entire site offline. The legal threats came a week later. A letter from a fancy law firm demanding I restore her access to the house and provide financial support. My lawyer, a man who enjoys this kind of thing a little too much, sent back a response. It included a copy of the deed to the house in my name only, a copy of the car title in my name only, and a detailed invoice for her half of all living expenses for the past year, which far exceeded any claim she could possibly make. The letter ended with a polite suggestion that if she wanted to pursue this in court, I would be more than happy to file a countersuit for the money she owed me. The legal threat stopped. The social media post stopped. All that was left was a quiet, satisfying silence. Final update. It's been about 4 months since I got back from my motorcycle trip. The silence has been the best part. My house is my own. It's filled with things I've built, art I actually like, and a profound lack of drama. The story of Roz's return and the subsequent implosion of her life became a sort of local legend among our friends. She and her parents had to hire a moving truck to go to the storage unit and retrieve her mountain of belongings. I'm told it was a very tense and unhappy family outing. She ended up moving back in with her parents. Her influencer career is for all intents and purposes over. Her brand was built on a lifestyle she couldn't sustain on her own. Without me to fund the trips, the clothes, and the fancy dinners, she had no content. Her feed, once a constant stream of glamorous updates, is now mostly just old pictures and sad, vague quotes about new beginnings. Lauren and Ashley, her loyal friends, are no longer in the picture. I heard they had a massive falling out. Apparently, they got tired of Rosie complaining and expecting them to support her financially. Their friendship, it seems, was as transactional as her relationship with me. I did have one final indirect interaction with her. About a month ago, I got a call from a guy who owns a gallery downtown. He was a mutual acquaintance. "Hey, Tom," he said, "I'm calling about a weird thing. Rosie was in here yesterday. She was trying to sell me some of the furniture that used to be in your house. Said she was an interior designer now." I just laughed. "And did you buy any of it? Are you kidding me?" He said it was all cheap, mass-reduced stuff with no character. I told her it was worthless. She got really upset. Started going on about how you ruined her life and her career. He paused. "For what it's worth, man, you dodged a bullet. A big, expensive, poorly decorated bullet. And that really says it all. She saw me as an accessory to her life, a wallet to fund her ambitions. She thought my purpose was to stand in the background out of frame so I wouldn't embarrass her. She never understood that I wasn't in the background. I was the foundation, and when the foundation walks away, the whole pretty fake house comes crashing down. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just free. I'm planning another trip for the fall, maybe to Southeast Asia this time. I'm building new furniture for my house, pieces that are solid and real and will last a lifetime. I'm building a life that doesn't need to be photographed to be enjoyed. She wanted a life that looked perfect online. I just wanted a life that felt good in reality. It turns out you can't have both if one is built on the other. She made her choice at the airport that day. She chose the image over the person, and in the end, the image was all she was left with, a blurry, fading picture of a life she used to.